Hi, if you're here, that means you're likely considering purchasing some of our clothing, and I just wanted to thank you for that. I love what we get to do, and I hope that I can help you nail the fit by talking to you a little bit about how to take your body measurements. Also, if you've been hesitant to measure yourself, I totally get it, but I want to reiterate that measurements have no good or bad qualities, they are just numbers. And I want to applaud you for getting the facts about your body so you can get something that fits you wonderfully and feel really, really good about it. So, good job for being here. And let's talk about how to get the right measurements so that you can get the fit right for your garments. We're going to start with the chest. So, this measurement is taken around the fullest part of the chest. If you don't have a soft, flexible measuring tape like this at home, you can also use a piece of string and compare that to a rigid measuring tape or a yardstick or something similar. You can even print off rulers on printer paper if you need to go that route. So we're gonna go around the fullest part of the chest. I'm gonna keep the tape parallel with the ground if possible, all the way around the back. And then you wanna pull the tape pretty snug. You don't wanna have extra room in between the tape and your body. You don't want to keep it loose. You want it to be real snug. The reason for that is you want to get your accurate body measurements, and then any space that you need between your body and the clothing will be accounted for in the ease of the garment. But you want to know your true body measurements with the tape nice and snug. So my chest is measuring right at 46 inches. I'm also nursing currently, so it changes throughout the day, but right now, that's 46 inches. Also, side note, I do recommend measuring yourself in the morning and the evening and seeing if there's a significant difference. For me, my waist measures larger in the evenings, and I like to account for that because I want my pants to be comfortable. So we've got 46 inches for our chest, and then we're gonna go to waist. So here you wanna find the narrowest part of your waist, and some folks are higher waisted than others, some are lower waisted. So it's easiest for me to find that looking straight ahead. I can look for this narrowest part for my waist. I'm gonna pull that snug and keep that again parallel with the ground. And my waist is measuring right a little under 39, but I'll call that 39. And then now we are going to measure our hips. So again, just like the chest, you want to find the fullest part of the hip. My hips are fairly straight from the front, so I'm going to kind of do my best and then turn to the side and make sure that I'm getting the fullest part of my hips. And for everybody, this measurement may be different. For some folks, their fullest part of their hip will be a little bit higher on the butt. Some folks it'll be lower. So just do this in a mirror for sure so you can tell what you're getting. Okay, so that's pretty good. I'm gonna kind of pinch and see. Okay, so we're a little bit over, looks like almost 44. So 43 and 3/4 between 43 and a half and 44 for hip measurement. I'm gonna pull up our size chart and show you where I fall according to our sizing and what you would do with that information now that you've got it. So looking at our size chart, we're just going to take a look at where my measurements put me so you can see how I would select the correct garment size based on those measurements we just took. My chest is 46 inches, so I fall right in the middle of the 1X size range for my chest measurement. My waist is 39 inches, so I'm also falling right in the middle of the 1X size according to my waist measurement. And then my hip measurement is 43-ish, 43, 44 inches. So I'm on the lower end of the extra large size according to my hip measurement. As you can see, rarely do bodies fit into a specific size perfectly. Sometimes they do, but often they don't. So I would choose the correct size based on the garment I was selecting. For my chest and waist, I would typically order a 1X. In a pant, I might try an extra large and see how the waist felt, considering that many of our pants have elastic waists, so they could work for me. but I also would feel probably very comfortable in the 1X and maybe a little bit looser in the butt area, but that is just kind of a fit or style preference. So in bottoms, I would wear a 1X or an extra large, probably pretty comfortably. For tops and dresses, I would most likely go for a 1X to be comfortable in the shoulders, chest, and waist areas. Once you've taken your body measurements, you can use those to select a garment size that will work for you based on the size charts we offer. You can also look at the garment measurements, which are the physical measurements of the actual garment. We have a Harper tunic here that we're going to measure. This is a size large, extra large. We're going to take the garment measurements of this piece, and then we're going to look at how a garment that measures like this would fit on my own body. And we're going to compare the garment measurements to my body measurements and see how it fits. One thing to keep in mind is that garment measurements do vary from piece to piece. So when you look at garment measurements we list for our products, just remember that our items are handmade and we garment wash everything before we ship it. So there are some variations to be expected from that process. We try really hard to control all those elements, like the shrinkage of each dye lot of material we get, the differences in construction from one machine to the next, maybe shaves off a little bit more from each seam, the temperature of the wash, dry time, all of those things we try really hard to control, but when something is handmade, it's hard to get those things perfect. So expect a little bit of difference between each garment, and also that's why we build in a lot of ease to most of our pieces, is so that fit should still look great even if there is a little bit of variation, especially with natural fibers like linen and cotton. So with all that being said, let's get into it. One thing to remember as well is that when you're measuring a garment flat like this, you're going to need to double the measurement, the flat measurement you get, in order to obtain the full in the round circumference, especially if you're going to be comparing the garment measurement to your full in the round body measurements. All right, so we've measured the actual Harper tunic that I'm wearing. We know what the measurements of the garment are. Now we're going to look at how those measurements translate to the fit on me, on my body. When you're looking at garment measurements, you want to keep ease in mind. Ease is defined as the difference between the garment itself and how it measures and the body that the garment is going on. In our clothing, you're mostly going to find positive ease because we work primarily with wovens. Woven fabrics don't have inherent stretch, so you need room between your body and the garment for it to look right and for you to be able to move around. If this garment measured exactly 47 inches around, which is my chest measurement, I would have no room to move. It also wouldn't look like the Harper tunic that it is. So ease is both a practical reality of design, but it also can be used for style and aesthetic reasons. So this top is obviously more oversized than it physically has to be, but it also has a lot of ease built in for comfort reasons as well. You will also see negative ease occasionally in garments, typically in knits because knits stretch. So a knit garment, when it's laying flat, usually measures smaller than the body it's intended to fit onto. If it's a tight body, body conscious fitting knit piece. You may occasionally see negative ease, for example, in like the waistband of a pant. You may see that the opening of a waist when fully stretched is smaller than your hip measurement, for example. And you might be wondering, how do I pull that on if it's smaller than the widest part of my hips? The kind of caveat there is that our bodies are soft in most places, so you'd be able to kind of pull that on. It'll kind of squeeze the meat to get up to your waist level and then be comfortable once on. That's not always the case, but you might see that occasionally with some pull-on pants. The one thing to keep in mind is ease is not just for comfort in terms of like standing straight in the mirror. You need to think about how you move throughout the day. So you may feel good with 3 to 4 inches of ease in a woven top when you're standing up straight. But when you start lifting things, moving around, bending over, you might realize that you actually need a little bit more ease. That's particularly important in pants. It kind of works in reverse as well. When you think about squatting or sitting or bending over, you might realize that you're stretching out your pants quite a bit, so you want those to measure closer to your body measurements rather than having significant ease in the hip. So it all depends on personal preference, the style and intended fit of the garment, the strength of the garment. All of those factors come into play. But in general, you want to look for at least a few inches of ease in the chest and hip area, in my opinion, for a garment to fit comfortably. And this is just an example of what a pretty significant amount of ease looks like on the body. My hips are 43, 44 inches, and this hip area measures that same 57 inches in circumference as the chest. So I've got a 47-inch chest, 43, 44-inch hip, and I've got about 10 inches of ease in both of those areas. And this feels very comfortable to me. This is obviously not a super form-fitting top, but for its purposes, this is how I like it. So yeah, that's what you want to keep in mind when you're looking at garment measurements, thinking about how those compare to your body measurements and how you'd like a certain piece of clothing to fit.